Let's stick with Moody's because another big story out this week. S&P Global has dropped its credit rating on New Orleans as the city confronts one of the worst financial crises in its modern history. Now, the ratings firm cited the city's heavy dependence on one-time financial fixes and shrinking liquidity as reasons for the cut. Bloomberg Muni finance reporter Aashnah Shah is covering the story, and she joins us now. So it sounds like this was theoretically a long time in the making when it comes to this drop for New Orleans here.
New Orleans has been facing years of financial distress, and as S&P cited in their report, they have structural and operational imbalances, their reserves are depleting, and they're relying heavily on these one-time temporary fixes, which I think is the main thing here. They're furloughing employees, they're relying on a $125 million payroll loan to just meet payroll. They're putting a hiring freeze in process, and so they're really relying on this one-time temporary fix, and that's what S&P wants them to pull back on.
And I was going to ask, I mean, you think about, this change that S&P put through this week. What did they say about what they would want to see, what they need to see for them to, consider changing the outlook or the rating eventually?
They want New Orleans to essentially fix their balance sheet. And so once they start seeing that, once they start seeing less reliance on these one-time fixes and other ways to fill these budget gaps, and a lot of this was caused because they spent a lot of the money from the federal pandemic aid, and they used it to prop up their budget, to prop up day-to-day expenses. And so now they have to get creative and find ways to fill these budget gaps.
And what does this mean for investors, the fact that you did see this drop when it comes to the New Orleans credit rating?
It definitely makes investors a little bit nervous, but I think once S&P decides whether, in the next 2 years they're going to downgrade it further, change the outlook to stable, I think investors are going to be keeping a close attention to that, and so will we.
And is it safe to say that, a lot of these issues that we're talking about are idiosyncratic to New Orleans, or are we seeing, other cities around the country sort of confront similar problems here?
We're seeing a lot of municipalities facing the end of pandemic relief aid and how they're coping with the lack of this aid and filling their budgets in other ways. And so we're seeing cities across the country find different ways to plug these budget gaps.